So, good morning. Thank you for coming back. This is the third day of the 8th edition of Animasyros AGORA, 15 years of Animasyros Festival. So we're very happy to have with us Joanna Quinn and Les Mills, that since last year they became our friends. And this is amazing for our festival and the Agora, of course. So when we asked them to come and give a masterclass about this fantastic project, The Affairs of the Art, that was nominated last year for an Oscar, they were thrilled and they say, yes, of course we'll come. And really, we feel very proud and so happy to have them here. I would like to introduce Joanna. So Joanna Quinn discovered animation while studying graphic design at Middlesex University, London. Her graduation film, Girls' Night Out, introduced audiences to the character of Beryl and kick-started Joanna's animation career by winning 3 awards at Annecy. Joanna's films have won many awards, including 4 BAFTAs, 3 Emmys, and 3 Oscar nominations. Joanna works collaboratively with writer, producer Les Mills, and their recent film, Affairs of the Art, was nominated for an Oscar, and as she says, but more importantly, won the Grand Prix at Animasyros 2021. Thank you so much. So, Les Mills studied fine arts in Cardiff, London, and the USA, but gradually became more interested in film, culminating in him becoming director of the film school at the University of Wales, Newport. Les first collaborated with Joanna on her graduation film Girls' Night Out, and they both created Beryl Productions International in 1988. Les wrote and produced the next 3 award-winning Beryl films and produced Wife of Bath, for which he won a BAFTA and an Emmy. He received the 2022 British Animation Awards Writers' Award and was nominated for an Oscar for Affairs of the Art. So, welcome Les and Joanna. Joanna and Les is with us. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It worked, great. Okay, you talk.
We've done this quite a bit before, and every time we do it, we add to it, so it's a kind of long tome to remember everything. So,
I hope you've brought sandwiches.
Yeah. So now and then, most of the time, I'll have to read what I've written before and improvise a bit. So it might become a little bit wooden. If it gets too boring, just shout and say it's too wooden, right? Anyway, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the way we work together, basically, and the way where we started and where we are now. Me as the writer-producer, sometimes initiator, and Joanna, obviously, as the director and animator. That's our major roles. And how these working roles, these collaborations have been in operation for the last 25 years. 25 years, yeah? And somehow the roles complement each other and seem to work. So that's basically where we're at most of the time. We'll try and show the importance of the relationship between the scriptwriter and the producer and the director, mainly. That's what we'll talk about. And how this sort of creative partnership, which recognizes Joanna's unique skills and sometimes my skills, seem to generate a kind of relationship which is very creative and very interesting for us, and hopefully for you as an audience too. So as well as talking about individual roles that we take and stages of production, we'll show clips of quite a lot of different things from a series of films we've made, and also from ads, and also from the way Joanna especially works in front of a camera on her own to work out character profiles and character, because remember, she's an actress as well. She is, in Affairs of the Arts, she's the voice of Beverly, which is a major voice in that. So Joanna has always wanted to be an actress, is that right? Yes. You can tell, right? So she'll do at the end of the presentation, she'll do something especially related to that aspect of the whole process. Okay, so how did we get involved? We got involved because I was teaching art and design in a college in North London, and teaching general art and design, but that included a lot of drawing. And one of my students was Joanna, and I noticed, you know, she stood out even then. This is 26 years ago. Her work stood out, you know, recognized as a sort of the vitality, the flow of the drawings, and I thought even then that she'd probably become very interesting and very prolific animator, and the quality of her drawings then showed a lot of movement, even in still drawings. We did a lot of life drawings, we did a lot of studies, and I recognized then the quality of those drawings. In as much as she left a lot of when you're doing a drawing, for those of you who draw, you always explore the possibilities of a line, and a lot of the time you rub it out and you end up with something which is the finished thing. But in Joanna's case, I encourage her to leave all the lines that she was trying to explore, the nature of the drawing, leave them there. And so the drawings look even then, they looked as though they were moving. And I encouraged her to leave those always on a drawing, so she could see, in a sense, the mistakes she made, but also it contributed towards the vitality of the overall drawing. Later, when she went to another college and she was introduced to animation, then that proved to be an asset in the sense that animation is all about moving drawings, especially with Joanna, because she's basically a drafts person. So that's basically how we met.
Should I show some of the life drawings?
Yeah.
So these are some life drawings.
From that time.
So just quick, rough ones. Just that thing that Les taught me is just like trying to make a three-dimensional body out of one line. So it's not an outline as such, it's a line with different qualities so that it goes away and then it comes forward, which then went into my animation. So we thought it would be fun to show you the very first bit of animation I did. Because I did so much life drawing, the first little piece of animation I ever did was just a figure, a model moving. I actually did it out of my imagination, but shall I show that? Yeah?
Absolutely.
Blink and you'll miss it, it's so short.
Yeah, just to add to that, she studied graphic, as a degree she studied graphic design, but part of the process was being introduced to other processes such as lithography, photography and animation, which she'd never done before.
I didn't do lithography.
I know, but
I don't even know what that is.
some people did. Right? Or printmaking then, okay, sorry. So when she discovered the whole kind of medium of animation, it was like, oh my God, I found out what I want to do for the rest of my life, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the first films you did were sort of a little bit, I thought, cartoony, and I was sort of frowned on them. But she did this piece of animation, which I think is exceptional even for them. So
Okay, so this is my first foray into animation. Over. So the trouble I've always had, and I know this from when I speak to students, because we do a lot of teaching, and they're sort of saying, but I haven't got a style, and they've sort of got this idea of what they want to do, and of course we're there to say, you're doing it, that's your style, And I think when I was at college, I was sort of torn, because I loved doing anatomical drawings and drawing the body, but I also like to make people laugh, and so I found it quite hard to marry the two together, and because most of the animation that I'd seen that was funny was very cartoony, and not beautifully drawn, so I wanted to have beautifully drawn, funny films, so I suppose I've spent my life trying to do that.
Anyway, as soon as she realized that was what she wanted to do, she basically veered in the course towards just actually doing animation. So the final, after 3 years of studying all the aspects of graphic design, the one she really went for was animation. So her graduation film, which was, how long was it?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, was a film called Girls' Night Out, and she made this film, and it was very, very good. And everybody said, well, why didn't you enter it for a film festival? And the best film festival to enter it for is Annecy, which is in France, and which is probably the most prestigious animation.
Apart from Animasyros, of course.
Oh, yeah. But that, and she didn't know anything about. She didn't know anything about film festivals, and she didn't really know anything about other kinds of animation, independent animation. Like she said, all you really had in Britain at the time was sort of studio stuff and Tom and Jerry and all the rest of it on television. So independent animation is a kind of, an area, and all these people doing it she didn't know anything about. But she did enter the film at the festival, and luckily she won 3 awards at that festival. And she was introduced to all these other independent films, and people, not only people who were quite famous and she knew their work, but other people she had no idea that there existed, other people like herself who wanted to express their own ideas in certain ways, in new ways of animating. So it was a complete revelation to her. And
I think going to festivals, it blew me away, because I suddenly realized animation is such a wide art form, and there are so many different types of wonderful films, and it just opened my eyes to everything, and I think that has stuck with me, and just going to festivals is just so enriching, and you learn things all the time, and even when you see films that you don't like, it makes you analyze why you don't like them, and then just meeting the people behind the films is such a treasure as well. It's so wonderful to be able to do that, especially if you really love a film. It's great to meet the people, but then also if you don't like the film and then you meet the person and the person is really nice, you think, God, you made that really violent film. And then it sort of makes you look at the film slightly differently when you've met the filmmaker, and I don't know, it's just really lovely.
But also the film, because of the content, which was basically a bunch of young women going to a male strippers, was sort of unique in the sense of the content, because most animated films that we saw in Britain were basically adverts or what we call bums and tits films. I mean, if you understand what that means, right? They were very, very kind of sexist, basically. And suddenly, in Joanna's film, there was women enjoying themselves, expressing their sexual kind of desires, if you like, and enjoying themselves in a way that hadn't been represented much in film or even in animation, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, when you make a film, and particular animators, we're locked in cupboards and we're just doing what we think we'll do. And then when you show it in a film festival, suddenly it's seen as an equal to all the other films, and so you see it in a different context when you make a film. And I hadn't realized quite how sexist a lot of the films were. I thought my film was just normal, but then I got a lot of response to my film with people saying, blimey, that's strong or something. And I was thinking, oh really? You know, it's not until other people interpret your film that you see it through other people's eyes. And so that was a big wake-up call to me. Yeah.
So what happened then was that the film had a bit of a reputation, and in Wales, television companies, there's a Welsh television company and a British TV company called Channel 4, who were just about getting involved in the whole idea of animation, not just as cartoons, but as a complete medium with varied content. Suddenly they said, oh, you know, we want to show this on TV, you know, we want to show this film on TV. And they actually paid for new voice recordings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that. And then the producer of Channel 4 Wales, or actually wasn't the producer, what was his role?
Commissioning editor.
Commissioning editor said to us, oh, we love the character of Beryl, could you write another film? And we said, and they said, oh, they'll pay for it all. So it'll be a commission, it'll be on television, you know, sort of miraculously. I wrote another script with Beryl in it, and they paid for everything.
Before we go on, we've skipped a bit. I was going to show the...
Okay.
So these are the very first drawings of Beryl in my sketchbook at college. So this is me trying to get her face. And I think I sort of went for the one with the blonde hair. I wrote number 1 next to it, so I must have gone for that one. I think the girl next to her long hair ended up being her best friend. So right from college, I started drawing in sketchbooks and using books for all my notes. These are terrible drawings, but I'm going to show you anyway. So these are the first sort of my character designs for Beryl and what she'd be wearing. And so this is pre-internet, so I had lots of catalogues, shopping catalogues with clothes that I used to chop out and stick down. And then I also used the book to work out angles and shots, which I still do. So this is Beryl sitting down. And I think this is where Les and I work quite well together, because I'll just draw maybe the one in the top left. That would be my first one. And Les was saying, no, that looks really flat. Move the camera, make it lower or make it higher. You know, the camera can be anywhere. And so then I would explore it like this very quickly, choose an angle, and then that would be the angle that I would animate. And then the story, it started off as a comic strip. So this was the little comic strip of 3-4 friends going out and seeing a male stripper.
She did research.
I did a lot of research. The most researched film I've ever done.
Tell me you couldn't believe the response.
Oh my God, I know. My film is completely tame compared to the reality. Because we went to this pub, and I mean, the women, they were just savage. You know, they were like lunging at this poor man. And it was in a pub, in the saloon bar. So there was the normal pub next door, and then we were in the saloon bar, and it was just all women except the poor stripper. And then accidentally 2 men walked in, And they were chatting, not really noticing what was going on. So they opened the door and walked in. And then all the women jumped on them and started peeling their clothes off. So, yeah, anyway. So I went back loads of times. And so this is an example of starting to use reference. And so that's my sketchbook on the side. That's the design, the very rough design of the interior of the living room. And then on the right is the final shot. So I think from very early on, all the decisions are made in sketchbooks. You know, all the sort of, everything is done in sketchbooks and then taken forward and not really going backwards. So not reinventing the wheel once you've started the storyboard. Everything's worked out before doing the storyboard, then the storyboard goes on. It just makes life so much easier.
Can I just say something about that drawing?
Yes.
Yeah, that drawing there is the guy in the chair is Barrel's husband, who's a sort of couch potato, and she says to him, "The girls are taking me out because it's her birthday," and he just totally ignores it. So maleness was established right at the beginning of that film as being this disinterested husband who we don't really know anything about him apart from that. Later on, in the other Battle films, you see the development of the husband as a more sympathetic character, not this couch potato. So just to say that was in that film, right?
Yeah, I became less angry. More forgiving. Anyway, here's a little clip of Girls' Night Out. Let's play. Meant to cut before. That was my
Rubbish. She loves it. You know, right? All right, where was I? Oh yeah, right. Okay, so yeah, it was quite successful, and like I said, television companies got interested in it, and they did pay for a redub, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, getting obsessed. Yes, they did pay for, because we had to have union voices, because the voices on it were me, Les, the technician from the college, anybody who happened to be walking past. So, yeah, we had to get proper voices, actors.
Yeah, I've forgotten that. Yeah, it was really difficult to get anything independent on television in those days, unless you were in a union, and we weren't in a union, but we got around that somehow. Anyway, this guy that was the commissioning editor was so enamored of the character that he said, "Could you do another one, do another film with Beryl in it, and we'll pay for it all, you know?" So we said, "Yeah, okay." And I wrote another film which was called Body Beautiful, which is about bodies again, right? In some way, that's right.
It is, yeah.
And we did it. And this time we were we spent quite a lot of time thinking about the theme of the film, and it was again about, it was a more sort of feminist angle in terms of the way women get treated in the workplace. And it was set in a Japanese television factory in Cardiff. We did a lot of research for this. We went to two factories, Panasonic and Sony, and we noticed that the majority of the staff were young women, about 18-year-old, and we said, why are they all young women? And this, you know, the only men were the supervisors at the top of the tree, and the factory manager said, oh, it's because their eyesight is great, you know, and because they were dealing with electronics finally, so they had to have, so that was the reason. So we set the film in a factory, and we used Beryl. She, by this time, had become a union representative, and because of her weight problem, and because she wasn't, you know, a kind of young, thin, good-looking woman in the film, there was a factory bully, somebody who basically plagued her incessantly with the size of her body, mocked her, you know. Coincidentally, at the time, there was a competition going on in the factory called Body Beautiful Contest for males only, and Beryl hatched a plot to actually enter the contest secretly, and basically that's what the film is about. And in the process, she triumphs in the end. So it's quite a triumphant film in terms of women's achievement, right, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want to show a clip of that?
I will. These were some more, because we had to do more characters and explore Beryl more, because of course I was drawing more and I'd moved on since Girls' Night Out. So these were some more drawings of Beryl. She gets more solid, I think, more detailed, less cartoony. They're still a bit cartoony, but
it's still a comedy, though. It's still a comedy.
Again, in these books, so I've got books of all of the characters. So here's a little clip. This clip is Beryl doing her bodybuilding, getting ready for the contest to try and beat Vince at the bodybuilding competition.
Yeah, that's the name of the factory bully. He's called Vince, and he's
Vince.
a very distinctive-looking macho guy, right?
Yeah. Okay. He was actually based on somebody, wasn't he?
Something about the transformation of Ivor into this.
Oh yeah. So yes, that's true. Her husband now in this clip is doing the hoovering.
He's actually, and she's the worker.
She's
so
the worker.
He's developed from a couch potato
To a good hooverer.
who worked. He was actually a steel worker in the other film, and you never know that. In this film, he's actually been made redundant, which is a lot of what went on. All factories in Wales, all the steel industry, the coal industry disappeared, and he was made redundant. So he's changed the nature of what he is.
Okay.
Hello, love. How was your practice then?
I'm shattered. I'm just going upstairs for a lie down, all right?
What is going on up there? Oh, more than all a bit of. Hey, what does she do? She'll be the death of me, that woman. if you're not in the chorus line anymore, what exactly are you doing tomorrow night, love?
You'll see.
These are some of the reference drawings. So we went to all of the factories. That's a clocking out machine. These are the women where they stand. We also set it in a particular village in South Wales, and these are photographs from the village and the leisure centre where she practices. So even though it's animation, it's actually based on reality. You know, it's very much researched, and I think we're firm believers to do lots of research, because then you can exaggerate it, then you can stretch it, but it's quite nice if it is based in reality to start with. Makes it unique. So
Okay.
next.
Yeah, we made that film, and it did pretty well, didn't it, right? And then we got more interest from the UK Channel 4, and they said, I would like you to write five short animation ideas to be screened at about 7:45 on an evening, just before the main evening news in Britain, which we had, my God, you know, because animation even then was still, you only saw it, independent animation, late at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, when the only people who watched it really were other animators.
Us.
You know, so to get, yeah, us, right, to get stuff on, you know, at 8 o'clock in the evening, on a main TV channel, 5 of them, you know, every day for a week would have been fantastic, you know, great, you know, a breakthrough for us anyway. So I wrote 5 different ideas, scripts, and the commissioning editor resigned, right? And the next commissioning editor came along and said, we're not going to do it. So we had these 5 ideas floating around, which were never going to get realized, you know, because she left, and the other guy was not sympathetic to us. So we thought, some of them are really good, we want to pursue them. So we adapted one of them to be the next bigger film. It's a 15-minute film, the next one, which was called Dreams and Desires, Family Ties. And again, it was Beryl becoming obsessed with something, you know, like she was in there with becoming a performer. And this time she started reading about film itself and reading about seminal films and seminal filmmakers, you know, especially documentary. And she got given a video camera by a friend. So she started to use the camera herself to do diaristic things, video diary in other words. At that time, video diary was very popular generally in Britain. Everybody seemed to be doing it. It was on TV, in colleges, people had the means of production, you know, video cameras. So the next film was about Beryl's obsession with learning about film and constructing her own diaristic sequences. Unfortunately, her best friend asked her to do a video of her wedding, a wedding video. And wedding videos is a genre, and they're all exactly the same, basically, because unless there's something goes on in them, I have a different view of weddings than Joanna. Joanna thinks they're fantastic, celebratory,
I love a wedding.
wonderful, and I think they're disasters, you know, because you bring all these disparate people together who hate each other or disagree with the guy who she's going to marry or whatever, and I always think, oh, gosh, this waiting to be a disaster unfolding. So Beryl agrees to video the wedding, but she brings to it all the stuff that she's been reading about seminal filmmakers, you know, Vertov and Leni Riefenstahl and all those, and Eisenstein. So, and she does it diaristically. So it's not really about the wedding, it's about Beryl's view of it all, trying out ideas. And in the end, she basically totally destroys the wedding. You know, the whole thing becomes a disaster movie. So, I mean, that's what it's all about. You want to show us something of that? Right. Is it making any sense?
Okay, so this is a clip. This is right at the end. This is after she's had too much to drink. And the wedding, she's meant to be filming the wedding, and she's sort of giving up a bit. So...
4 o'clock wedding me, look, God. I can't get a sick. Remember that Russian bloke, Verstov? He wasn't afraid of anything. He put the camera anywhere, upside down, top of trams, everywhere. Hey, come here, come here. You can help me out here, Dick. I just struck the camera to your back. Keep still. Okay, boy. Go for it. Just mingle it, remember. Kilo Pravda. Film truth.
Okay, everybody, can you proceed to the cake area? Where is the big lady with the camera? Daryl, can you come?
Bloody hell, get off! It's that bloody dog! What's Harry's back? It's that bloody
Hello, Dick. Fancy a fourth, Dick. Daryl, can you come this way for the cake? Everybody proceed to the cake area.
Here, come and get the bloody cake. Where's the camera?
Oh, yeah, well...
She's only gonna put the bloody camera on the dog. Look at the bloody dog.
Oh, my leg, man! Go, get off! Oh, what's the cake?
Look, I was there. Oh, bloody hell.
You ruined my wedding, Beverly!
Well, I think I better cut it here.
Got it? I've got his bloody throat and yours too, Beryl.
Oh, God, what an ordeal. I'm a bag of nerves. Oh! Okay, I know it's my fault.
Bear, it's me, Beverly. Say how'd it go?
Oh, Bev, it's you. What a nightmare. I blew everything. The tracking shot went wrong. I wrecked the ceremony. I got pissed. The dog went mad. Destroyed the cake. Shot everywhere. Too ambitious. I was too ambitious.
Don't worry about it, Bear. You gotta have ambition. You gotta have dreams.
But, Bev, I'm always dreaming. I dream all the time. I think people think I'm losing it. Maybe I am.
Bear! Are you there, Bear? Bear, where are you?
Where are we? Sorry. That film did quite well, right? And we wanted to develop that idea and actually talk about the history of Beryl's family. The woman's voice on the end there is Beryl's sister, Beverly, who by this time she's living in LA. So we thought the next film we made with Beryl in it, we would involve the back history of Beryl, her relations, especially she's got a son, and especially her sister. So that's formed the basis for the idea for the next film, which is Affairs of the Art. Right? So in the meantime, we made a lot of ads and commercials for television, which was incredible because we were able to develop the studio and employ a lot more people. At the time we made that, we had probably a crew of about 6. Yeah. And then we started making ads for America and Canada and Mexico and Britain. So we expanded our studio and we ended up with about 42 people working for us, which is like making all these ads. I mean, we made over 100 toilet paper ads, right?
Only the best.
And we said, because we were making quite a lot of money from the films, we put the money aside as our own production fund, which we used to finance the next film, which is basically what we did. We got some input from National Film Board, but most of it, 75% was our own money. So that's the benefit. If you can make money from adverts, instead of going out and buying new houses and BMWs and all the rest of it, you put your money for your production fund, you know you can make another film. You've got that certainty, which normally you don't have. So that was one of the benefits of doing commercials for television. Do you want to show anything?
Yeah, I'll show you. This is the very first commercial we did. It was called, it was for some toffees called Nips.
Sweet candy, right?
Candies. And it was just, you know, you would take, it's a bit like drugs, I suppose. You're stressed, then you take one of these sweets, you go, ugh. So, and they were really delicious as well. We got a whole box full. And I actually went to the doctor to have a blood test while this was going on. And the doctor said he'd never seen so much sugar in anybody's blood ever. So, so this is a 30-second commercial.
4 o'clock wedding meal. Oh, God.
No, it isn't. This is it. Here we are.
Miss Jones,
Caramel nips. Rich. Velvety. Long-lasting. Had enough? Have a nips.
And the funny thing, because that was the first one we made. We made it at home, and in my bedroom, I just had my light box in the bedroom, and Les did the colouring, and that was it. It was just the two of us, really. But then we were working with this big agency in San Francisco, and they wanted to come over. So it was like, oh my God.
To see our studio.
But we haven't got a studio. There's just my bedroom. You know, this is going to be embarrassing.
In the house.
In the house. So we hired a photocopier and put it in the hall, so that looked very professional. And our friend had a Spanish girl staying with her, and so she was our secretary for 2 days, and she spoke no English, and was just there to make them coffee and sort of bump up the numbers, I suppose, so it was like a studio.
So it looked like a studio, not a
but it really didn't look like a studio. I don't think they were fooled. And we had 3 cats at the time, which were all like, and all over them. So, yeah. But anyway, we made it, and again, going back to what to say to students, it's don't try and get a big studio, and don't aim too big in terms of employing people and getting beautiful space. Do it project by project. You know, do your projects. Keep everything small, because you want as less overheads as possible, so that you're not just working to pay bills. So stay in your bedroom for as long as you can.
You going to show anything? Or you just
Oh, that was it. I showed it, yes.
You're not going to show any more ads?
I'm not.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
Oh, yeah. At that time, too, we were actually making other movies, animated movies, that weren't to do with the character of Beryl. One of them was called Britannia, very short film about the history of British imperialism, right? And it was great for Joanna because there were actually no backgrounds in it, because she hates doing backgrounds, and no dialogue in it, right?
No dialogue.
So basically it was
no colour.
No colour, right? So it was an exercise purely in Joanna's style of animating, and she really enjoyed it, and I think it's probably one of the best films you've ever made, actually. Right?
Thank you.
And it did very well as well. It got a few things, didn't it?
Yes.
You want to shall I talk about the other things we did as well first?
I'll show the clip.
Well, I'll show the clip.
This is just a clip. So this is the bulldog.
The bulldog,
at the
British
beginning, the British
representation of it.
Yeah, the film is British imperialism in 5 minutes. So you're going to get a third of British imperialism, because it's just part of it.
Wake up! Down, boy! Good boy! Good boy! Stay! Good boy! What's that? Fix! 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 You fix! Seize them! boy. Walkers.
All right, as well as that, we made a film which is part of a series of, made about the Canterbury Tales. Have you ever heard of the Canterbury Tales? It's a sort of classic Old English stories about a journey, a pilgrimage journey to Canterbury. And we did one of them, which was called The Wife of Bath, which was a sort of more, I guess, it was financed by somebody else, and it was actually financed by Welsh TV again, wasn't it?
It was Welsh TV, HBO, and the BBC.
And the BBC. And it was pretty successful, wasn't it, in the end? Yeah?
Yeah.
I think it won quite a few awards. It got an Oscar nomination?
Oscar nomination.
Got an Oscar nomination, yeah.
BAFTA. Did well. And it's really funny because all of the films are used online to teach Chaucer to teenagers.
In schools?
In schools. And the animation in the film, the animation, there's an old woman with long, saggy breasts. And of course, the teenage boys always comment on YouTube about how they were forced to watch this old lady's breasts in their history class. So it's very funny, anyway. But it makes good reading. So it is used for educational purposes.
You want to tell your Duke of Edinburgh story there?
No, my Duke of Edinburgh stories was for Britannia.
Oh, sorry.
That was
ironic, because that would have been...
Yeah, no, Nancy likes this story, because, I'll say it. Because, Britannia...
That's the previous film we talked about, right?
Yeah, I won the Leonardo da Vinci award, which was given to me in Buckingham Palace for Britannia, a film about British imperialism. And it wasn't the Queen, it was the Duke of Edinburgh. And so we went in this big delegation, and we met him, and he gave me the prize and everything. And of course, he hadn't seen the film. So he said, "Oh, what's the film about?" And I said, "Oh, well, actually, it's about British imperialism in 5 minutes." And then the chap who had organised the whole thing, who, he sort of went completely white and jumped forward and said, no, it's about dogs. So that was very funny. That was my Duke of Edinburgh joke. Carry on.
Yeah, okay, there was one other film actually that Joanna made, which was getting mainly drawn, and that was Elle.
Elle, yes.
It was a big, huge exhibition at Toulouse-Lautrec going on in Paris, in Gare d'Orsay, and she was asked to do something. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was Didier Brunner, the lovely Didier Brunner, French producer, and he was asked, or I don't know, he was having conversations with the museum about getting different animators to take a piece of Toulouse-Lautrec's work and animate it, bring it to life as part of the exhibition. So I can't remember. It was the whole thing was called Cabaret, and I think there were probably about 5 little films made. And so the one I made was called Elle, and it was about 2 women, 2 of the models, on their lunch break, just having a nice time, eating and having a cup of coffee, while Toulouse-Lautrec goes out and gets a sandwich or something. I don't know what Toulouse-Lautrec did for his lunch. But anyway, he went out, and so they had fun, and then he came back in. So that was what the film was about. But I'll talk a little bit about it a little bit more later, actually.
You're not going to show a bit of that?
I'm not, no.
Okay, all right. So the next thing that we got involved with big time was Affairs of the Art, which, as you know, was here last year and won the Grand Prix, which is fantastic. And that was a much more involved production, quite a big production, wasn't it, in the end?
Yeah.
And that, like I said before, was financed by us mainly, and with some input from the NFB. And up until that time, all the Beryl films have been about what we call one event situations. A Body Beautiful contest, a wedding. What was the first one again?
Stripper.
Stripper, right? So we thought, well, we don't know anything about Beryl apart from her activities. We don't know anything about where she comes from, her life history, or she got relatives and sons and daughters. So we made a deliberate attempt to bring in aspects of Beryl's background, her back history, if you like. So I wrote Affairs of the Art, and the research for that was quite intense and involved my own family. And who did you research?
My own family too.
Oh, right. So the characters in it, Beryl's son, Colin. Have anybody seen the film already? No. All right, we're going to see it, right? Apparently, yeah, we're going to see it. Beryl's got a son now called Colin, who's based on my brother, who's a total. I've never met anybody so obsessed with things in my life as my brother. He's obsessed with like very strange things like railway signaling systems, speaking Dutch. You know, he chose Dutch as a language to learn, and he was obsessed with anything Dutch. All throughout his life, he only bought Philips electrical stuff because Philips is a Dutch firm, and he bought these two really quaint little cars called DAFs, D-A-F. They were a like really strange Dutch car, and I think he had 3 of those. And he learned Dutch. You know, he learned.
He changed his name.
Oh, he changed his name to a Dutch name, you know, which I can't remember, but it was in all his books. So it was like signaling systems, speaking Dutch, screw threads. You know what screw threads are? You know, on screws, the thread. He wrote a book called Screws of the World, which was an illustrated book of just about every screw that's ever existed anywhere. You can actually get it in the library, right? And also railways, steam railways especially. He's an expert on the Great Western Railway in Britain. You know, he's like. So when I was a child, when I was his brother, obviously, when I was about 5 or 6, we couldn't go out on our bicycles without him pretending we were on railway lines. So we couldn't go across the street to another street until the railway signal, which wasn't there. You know, in his mind though it was, and he'd say, "You can't." If I went to, you'd say, "You can't go down there. The signal's." So his obsessions were like incredible, and he became Colin in Affairs of the Art. Who else? Who else did you research? Somebody from your family, surely.
Oh, my grandmother.
Yeah,
my
grandmother. Yeah, both of us had experiences with dying grandmothers. When I was 8, I watched my grandmother die. I was left alone in the room, and I think everybody had gone out. And I heard a noise, and I watched my grandmother expire, basically, you know. And I didn't quite know that it was happening, but later on in this film, we sort of used her as a model. And what was your?
Well, my grandmother was she was almost dying. She had dementia. She didn't know where she was, but it was really terrible. I'm going to say this publicly on the internet, but anyway, in her room, I was actually drawing the wife of Bath at the time, and I needed to draw this old lady. And so and her breasts, so I wanted to see what an old lady's breasts were like. So I did what Beverly does in the film, and I lift the covers to look at my grandmother under the covers, which I thought was okay, because I was her granddaughter. But then the nurse came in. She said, "What are you doing?" I went, I
and
couldn't
do
say, I'm looking at
research.
her breasts. I couldn't say that. I said, oh, I don't know. Oh, I just sort of put it down. But my grandma wouldn't have minded. She knew what I did. But yeah, so that is why in the film, Beverly is looking underneath, you know, at her grandmother's.
Transposed.
I know.
Well, anyway, that's another example of using very personal research and reference and your own experiences. Everybody's got a family. Everybody has weird people in their family, weird incidents, battles, you know. I mean, I have this sort of funny view of all that, including weddings, like I said, that things go wrong all the time. And there's always somebody in the family who's like really bizarre, weird, and kind of everybody remembers in the family. And so we use that kind of background stuff in this film, Affairs of the Art. You want to show anything?
Yeah, I've just got some, not that. These are my sketchbooks. I've got big sketchbooks for Affairs of the Art, and these are just some of the sketches for that very scene, the grandma scene. And again, Beverly on the table there, sitting there with, leaning on the table with her legs swinging. That was the very rough drawing, but I literally scanned that in, and that became the animation frame. I didn't change it. That was the frame of the final thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to mention too that after seeing my grandmother die, in those days, in Wales anyway, there was a tradition that there was always somebody who lived in the street, usually an older lady, who, if somebody died, they would come in to the house and they would sort of do everything to do with the body, you know, like dress them up and lay them out, and that was and put pennies on their eyes, and all that, which is in the film, happened to my granny, again in the same room, you know, and we were all there. In this film, there's nobody in the room except Beverly, which is Beryl's sister. So, you know, I don't think that goes on anywhere else. And the bucket thing was, I think in certain religious societies, they put some water under the bed, holy water, in a vessel, a cup, and in this case it was a bucket, right? So, and she says, "I kicked a bucket," which is an expression for dying, right? And if you're wondering what that's all about, that's what it's all about. That kind of older tradition of what happens when people die in a kind of relatively intimate society.
I'll just show some of the character designs as well. This is like trying to, on the left is the overhead shot of the funeral in the garden, just playing with viewpoint. And then on the right it's Beverly and how much to stretch her, because she has her plastic surgery. But probably not as much as this, because this was where she actually melted in one eye with because she had so much plastic surgery. This is some things of Colin, some ideas of Colin. I got some good reference. I went to a games shop in town. I went to a game shop and I just sat in the corner and drew all these older chaps actually coming in.
Were they nerds?
They were Colin nerds, yeah. Sorry, I know you're probably all gamers, but anyway. But yeah, we tend to like to put people into types. But I think if we show this next.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You want to explain what it is?
Yeah, so what we've got here is a little video that we made really about the process, going from the rough drawings in the book to the script to the final thing, taking a scene all the way through. So I'll play that. It's not very long. It's only about 4 minutes. Okay. And I made this before, so I think I say, we are making a film. We've made it now. It's done. So the film we're working on at the moment is called Affairs of the Art and stars Beryl, who our company is named after, and she stars in 3 of our previous films. This time we've actually, because we love character, this time we've involved a few more characters. We've introduced a few more characters. We got her sister, her son, Colin, and her husband is much more apparent, and lots of animals in this one. Anyway, let me take you through the process. So the first thing is that Les has written the script and detailed character profiles. Once we're happy with that, then I move on to looking at images. So I love working in these big books. These are big sketchbooks, and I use these books to play around with character ideas and also scenes, looking at scenarios. And here's the final storyboard pinned on the wall. So you can see it's rather large. All the information is on the storyboard. So this is a description of the action on this side, and over here it's got voiceover and also sound effects. And this is a blueprint, and I don't stray from it. Well, I do, but not very often. Once we're happy with the storyboard, we go on to the next stage and create an animatic. Now, an animatic is basically a timed storyboard. So we take all the images from the storyboard, put them in a sequence, and then you get an overall idea of the time of the overall film, and also each scene within it. We put sound effects on, rough voices. It's like a movie, but it's stilted. It's not all like smooth, but it becomes the basis for the whole of the film. So as an example, I'm going to show you the section that you just saw in the storyboard with Beverly when she sings the Internationale in Russian and joins the Communist Party and then unjoins the Communist Party.
She even joined the Young Communist just to get a free trip to Moscow to see his tomb. But they only went as far as East Berlin. So Bev quit the party.
The next stage after the animatic is the animation. The animatic enables us to find out exactly how long the scene is, so we can count the frames, so we know how long it's going to take Beverly to sing the anthem and then to throw her badge. So with that information, I start animating. This is the storyboard frame, and so I've just traced over that to sort of get it a little bit right. And I've got to do lots of lip syncing for her singing, but after that she goes, she realizes that she doesn't want to be in it anymore. She goes for her badge, grabs her badge and goes and chucks it away. And so those are the key drawings, and then once I know that the animation is working and the movement is working, I'll then do all of the in-betweens, all the in-between drawings that go in between to make up the time, because you've got to do 12 drawings a second. So if that ends up being, I don't know, 2 seconds, then I know I've got to do 24 drawings. So once I've animated the scene roughly, I try and animate as quickly as possible to keep the energy and to get the overall movement. And then we're going back into it and starting to do the detail. So the lip sync, the actual lips, is something that I do last. So what I did as a little guide to help me is I photographed myself doing the mouth shapes, and then I filmed it, and to see which mouth shapes would coincide with the words. So I just literally filmed that.
But they only went as far as East Berlin.
And so with this trusty guide in front of me, I do the lips. So here's the final line test. It's not tidy or anything, but it's just some rough lips and some rough throwing, so you can see what it looks like all roughly animated.
But they only went as far as East Berlin. So Bev quit the party.
So as a treat, this is what this scene looks like when it's cleaned up, coloured, and with the correct voice on it, but rough sound effects. Anyway, I'm skipping ahead here, but it's a treat.
She even joined the Young Communist League to get a free trip to Moscow to see his tomb.
But
They only went as far as East Berlin. So Bev quit the party.
So that sort of sums up the process, really. Do you want to say any more? Or?
I don't want to bore anybody with more of this. I think just to say that the character profiles that I write, often they're so detailed that often they become part of the script. So if I'm describing a character and the characteristics of the character, sometimes it's interesting enough to become part of the script, and that's the major focus of our information for different characters. The character profiles are very, very long and very detailed, almost like stories of thing, and we attach great importance to that in the same way as Joanna does to doing introductory, exploratory research with characters. So those two things very much are part of the same process. Sometimes the character profiles are actually more interesting than the films.
They are, yeah.
And then we go, oh God, what are we going to do? So I don't know, if there are animators here who do work in certain ways, but that's the way that I develop a script from character profiles. That's the starting point for me, and an idea. I integrate them together and they become the script. Anything else you want to add to that?
No.
You sure?
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm looking at the time. We've only got 10 more minutes. Crumbs. I thought we would have hours, and it's just whizzed by. Yeah, what I was just going to. No.
Calm down.
Hang on a second. Let me just. These were just some talking about character.
Shall I talk about her?
Yeah, talk about these were some characters from the previous film, but this was Mandy.
So Mandy.
Because all the characters are based on people, that we've met, and so.
The characters exist previously as ordinary people doing extraordinary things or whatever. So Mandy was the woman in the wedding video film. She was the woman getting married who was really heavily into like a dog and latex and rubber, right? Clothes, right? You know what latex and rubber clothes are? They're sort of clingy and
shiny.
Rubbery, and so those were the obsessions. And she came from somebody that we were looking to buy an old car. We went to this street which I knew about, and there used to be this incredibly old white Mercedes parked outside, really rusting, but it looked great, And we said we'll knock the door and ask them if ever it becomes for sale, could they contact us? And it did become for sale, and we went there, and we knocked the door, and it's a terraced houses. You go straight into them off the street, and this woman came to the door dressed in this incredible outfit, and I said, can we talk to whoever's selling the car? And it was her husband, who was a smuggler. He smuggled beer from Spain in that car, right? And there were all these crates of beer in the passageway. No, the police didn't know about it at the time, but he did get busted eventually for it, I think. Anyway, she said, well, coming in, and we'll talk about it. And she led us into this room, and in the room there were about 15 women sat around on the floor, very heavily made up with, and a lot of bling, a lot of fake gold, and this dog. There was a poodle with rhinestone collar, and a big ribbon. So the whole thing, look at, she took us in there. I don't know what she did, and basically I said to her, what's going on here? Why is everybody sat around on the floor, and what's going on? And she said, it's a gold party, right? And I said, a gold party? And she said, yeah. And Do you know what a gold party is?
Oh, it's just selling gold to your friends.
You get, usually it started off with two products years ago. One was Tupperware, which is plastic containers, and the other one was, what was the other one? Was basically gold, fake gold, bling, I suppose, yeah? And Max Factor makeup, right? So the companies would pay women to sell it to their friends because they knew their friends couldn't resist. If your friend is trying to sell you something, you buy it, won't you, to help them out. So there was this sort of strange situation. So the woman who was organizing it, selling the bling, selling the gold to her friends, became Mandy, the girl, you got her up there, in Dreams and Desires, Family Ties. So that's another example of coming across something in real life that you then develop as a character in a movie, in a film, right?
Right, I'm going to push on because we've got 5
all
minutes.
right,
Okay, these are just some more. That's her dad. This is Terry, who he's the beer smuggler in real life.
That's the guy who smuggled beer.
Yeah, but that's what he looked like. And but he ended up. This is him getting married in the movie, and these are just some movement stuff. I just want to quickly just talk a little bit about, because I think on the thing it said performance. So one of the thing that I really loved in Affairs of the Art was having the space to bring Les's character profiles alive, you know, and give life to all of those characters. And so, yeah, I do love acting, and I love the challenge of trying to make the characters three-dimensional characters. And so it's not just like when they're speaking, it's not just them saying the lines, it's the body language, it's what they're doing with their eyes, it's all the extra information that you put in it. And so what I do before I do any animation is thoroughly examine the movement first. So I act everything out before I animate it, because if you do it from your imagination, it's never as strange, or it tends to be, you've seen it before, you know, it's just you go to your library of movements and you pluck a movement. But when you do something from original research, it's original and it feels original, and you realize you do something and you go, oh, that's what makes that action look so recognizable. And so I was just going to show you a couple of videos that I did of myself before I did the animation, and then just show you the animation so that you can see how, and these are just shot on my phone. So this is one of them.
That last jumper I knitted for Edie's little girl. But that last jumper I knitted for Edie's little girl. But that last jumper I knitted for Edie's little girl. Well.
And so what I would do is act it out, then time it.
That last jumper I knitted for Edie's little girl.
I'd work out where the nods went, and they're always on the vowels. Da 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 da. And so it's what I try and do is try and find the rhythm in the action, and note that down, and then try and make sure that I get it in the
But that
animation.
last jumper I knitted for Edie's little girl. That last jumper I knitted for Edie's little girl. But that last jumper I knitted for Edie's little girl.
You know, there's about 6 nods, but not repeated. They're different heights. So, and just making sure that you get that. And this next one is...
What's this? Opened it by mistake, did you, love? What's this? Opened it by mistake, did you, love? Opened it by mistake, did you, love?
So it's the same thing. I mean, that action is actually quite complicated, because it's that. So you've got the body, the packet, you know, you've got quite a lot of elements to deal with. And so the best way to deal with it when you're animating is to understand it fully before you start to animate. So, and that's going back to Elle. I learnt this from doing this film Elle because I made it in Spain without any testing. I couldn't test the animation. And so it taught me the lesson that you really have to analyze the movement before you animate, and it just makes life so much easier because you're just copying real life. We've got 1 minute left.
Questions in
Oh,
1 minute?
Are we we could go on and on and on, but maybe we ought to finish it there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this so creative and so personal journey in animation. So, questions?
Thank you for inspiration. Have you ever met or worked with Halles and Bachelor?
No, but we know Vivian, John Hallis's daughter. Yeah, and no, we're good friends with her. I did actually meet John Hallis years and years ago when there was an exhibition in London. So I did meet the man.
Any questions?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, come on.
Any next chapters in Beryl's life planned? And
we have got some ideas, but at the moment they're not Beryl ideas, but there are other ideas. I think because this film took us way too long, I think we're thinking short, snappy, no colour, no dialogue. No, I'm joking. No colour, just simple drawing.
how long did it take? How long were you working on Affairs of the Heart?
From beginning to end, like when we started working and employing our lovely Mia, who came as a student, it took 6 years, but it actually took about 10, 11 years. So we couldn't do another one because we'd both be dead.
Oh, come on. And how many drawings?
24,000.
Oh, I've got drawings here. I brought lots of artwork from all our films, so I'll put it out at the front.
24,000.
It was about 24,000, so we've got boxes and boxes of drawings which we need to think of what to do with.
We must do the exhibition about this
Yeah.
drawing.
Can you talk about the exhibition that was set up for you guys recently?
Oh yes, we had.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, we had a lovely exhibition in Cardiff,
In the Welsh Parliament building.
which is a beautiful new building. It's all
It's where the
what do you
centre of government is in Wales, in the building.
yeah, because we were nominated for an Oscar, they wanted to celebrate the Welshness, I think, of it. But it was fantastic, and they had these huge, giant barrel faces, which was great, which we've now got. so we're going to put it in our living room and have barrel wallpaper. No, we're not. No. But we could. But it was a lovely exhibition. It was really, really lovely.
Perfect. So I think we can wrap it up here, but we want to invite people to check out
yes, I'll
the
put my
drawings you're
drawings
putting
in.
out there. So thanks everyone for being here.